Hey again, travel bosses. I'm excited to bring you this week's sponsor, TripStreak, the smarter travel search. What I love about TripStreak is the ability to set your personal preferences to either have or avoid red-eye flights or have things like completely lie flat seats. So the next time you need to book a flight, check out tripstreak.com/travel-like-a-boss.
Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, the radio show all about traveling like a boss by being your own boss. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have built their own online businesses. If you would like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit travellikeabosspodcast.com for instant access. And here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey guys, it's Johnny and welcome to episode 164 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I am in Ireland with Sam Marks.
Hey Johnny, thanks for having me back on, man. This has been an awesome week and looking forward to chatting about it on Travel Like a Boss.
Yeah, it's been crazy. So if you guys haven't seen my post on johnnyft.com or watched the YouTube video, Sam and I just got done walking from Dublin all the way down to Clongal, which is this little tiny village in southern Ireland. We basically walked, how many miles did we walk? How many kilometers?
Okay, so if you actually look at the Wicklow Way track and trail, it'll say 127 kilometers. Don't quote me on the mile conversion to that, but I think it was closer to 160 kilometers according to our own like phone GPS and tracking.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot longer. And I think part of the reason is because the Wicklow Way official trail doesn't count walking 2 kilometers to our guest house off the trail and then another 2K back in the morning.
There's a lot of zigzagging and crossing paths, and somehow it all adds up. But I really think that each day ends up being 25% more walking than expected.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I actually did the math on my blog post somewhere, but it was something insane. It was the equivalent of running 3 marathons. But we're not just running, we are hiking through mountains. So we're going up in a bit of elevation. We have this huge pack on us that weighs, between 10 to 20 kilos. So, 20 to 30 pounds on our backs. And we're hiking through the mountains.
And the rain and the hay fever and the leprechauns, let's not forget.
Definitely hadn't seen any leprechauns, but I did see a rainbow, which is pretty amazing. So if you guys haven't listened to episode 163, that was kind of the beginning with Fabian, one of Sam's buddies that came out. Shout out to Fabian. But unfortunately, he had to go back to Germany. So Sam and I had continued from, day 4 to day 8. Kind of overall, what did you think? Would you think the first half or the second half was harder?
I think the second half was more difficult. Okay, because of 2 parts. One, the first couple of days was just ultra exciting, super free and just out in nature for the first time in a long time is a pretty special feeling. So even though we were still walking like 28K a day the first couple of days, it just felt very freeing, and I guess didn't really notice the weight on the back so much. But then towards the second half of the trip, we actually were doing shorter days, but the rain started coming. You started becoming a little bit more numb to the kind of the cool local pubs and local scenery. And then, of course, which I'm sure we'll talk about, came that massive monster day, which was probably the most physically enduring day of my life, which was our very last day to Clongal.
Yeah, so that last day, we walked 45 kilometers, which is 27 miles. That is a marathon in one day. Did you realize that?
I thought it was 30 miles, so I'm actually a little disheartened to hear it was only 27. But the cool thing to know is that we were definitely pushing our physical limits at that point. I mean, I know my body was. I think I probably could have done another 5K, and I think knees would have started buckling. But one of the coolest things was the guy that we met afterwards, who was ex-special forces in the British military, and he was telling us a lot about military history. And 30 miles is kind of where things start to happen bad in military marches. And it's not too often in history that there's been 30-mile marches in military, but most of the time they're forced marches. And that's pretty much the level when infantry starts to fatigue and basically collapse.
So knowing all this, why did we do this walk?
Well, why did we do the last 45K day walk?
No. Why did we do this whole Wicklow Way walk in the first place?
Well, Well, I want to answer my question first, which was, I think you had some miscalculations on the last day, which I went along with, which I'm glad we did because we pushed our limits. The Wicklow Way was never intended, actually, because the walk was supposed to just be a walk across Ireland to raise money for a child's dream. And of course, the quickest way to do that would have been a straight line from Dublin to Galway, which I think we could have banged out in about 10 days if we had gone straight. But Fabian, of course, got involved, and Fabian, being German and a master of planning and preparation, spotted this new Wicklow Way trail, which is kind of world renowned. Top everywhere you look, it'll be seen as a top 10 trail in the world, and it just looked really appealing. So can't really say no to somebody who's hot on the topic. So we just went with it.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad that we went on the Wicklow Way, because walking on the road for that many miles a day just sucks. I think, every day, on most days, especially in the second half, we had a lot of road walking. And first, it's not good for your feet or your knees, just because it's such hard pavement versus hiking when you're in either grass or you're in dirt. And hiking it's just so much more beautiful. I mean, you see so much more. You see so many random animals. You see these crazy views. You have lakes. You have these little villages we passed through. So I'm really, really happy we did the Wicklow Way.
Yeah, and for people out there who've seen the movie P.S. I Love You, it is actually a lot like that. Like, we are ending every single day at you can't call it a village, because it's literally just like a river crossing that has one pub and one bed and breakfast that has 4 rooms. There's 2 buildings that have probably been there for 500 years. And that's it. So I don't even know if you can call that a village. It's just like an outpost, more like. But the people that we meet there are remarkable, and it's been cool hearing a lot of their stories, of course, some of their ancestry, and a lot of people have been moving back to Ireland. They were living in London or Paris or Berlin, working for 20 years, and they moved back to Ireland, and they seem more happy than ever. Say they're more happy than ever, and I totally get it, because you mentioned walking on the roads, Johnny. Like, when we're on the roads and there's cars passing us, it seems so stressful. When you're out in nature and you don't hear or see a car, and you don't hear machinery or airplanes, you just hear the only noise you hear is sheep, really, the sheep in the wind. And then you get back onto the road and you see traffic. It's really, really stressful. So I can massively see the appeal in the countryside and this type of lifestyle a lot of people have chosen for themselves.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think we even joked a few times about just buying a piece of land there, just building a little farmhouse and just living out there.
It's oddly enough, it's not that cheap, but it would be, I could come this is my 4th time to Ireland. I could come every year. I think it's a special place. I would say, people wise, there are no better people. I would put Irish and Thai people up there, top 2 in terms of hospitality, just all around kind of goodness, good culture, happiness, always up for a good conversation. Endless amounts of people have offered us rides, tried to bring us in for tea. It's just a great place. It's almost a magical place in a way.
Yeah, definitely. It was super, super friendly. I honestly didn't think I would like Ireland as much as I did. I've actually been here for one weekend 8 years ago or something, but I was just, in Dublin. I didn't really see much. We just drank and went back to London. But this time when I actually went through and I got to sit down and just talk to people who live here and live in smaller areas, it's like, the relationship with my grandmother I never really had.
Mm-hmm. We always say, like, you're gone from Florida, Johnny, and I'm sure you've had similar experiences out in California. When we used to take family vacations from Florida up to the Carolinas every year, almost every 50 miles you would go from South Florida to the Carolinas, the people would get like 10% nicer. And by the time you got to Georgia, it was it was like people were twice as nice and twice as hospitable. And by the time you got to Carolinas, it was like you're living in a different world. Like the people were so friendly and just in everything that they did. And that's probably similar to the experience of being in London to being, into the countryside. People in London are great, or I'm sorry, in Dublin are great. But once you get to the countryside, it's a whole nother level of hospitality.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And even with London, I'm sure if you went down to like Devon or something, one of the smaller towns, it would be the same thing. And I definitely encourage everyone to escape the big cities once in a while and see the rest of the country, maybe on foot. Do you think you're going to be doing more of these like long walks or long hikes? Actually, you're still on one, right? You're still walking.
I have further to go now than I did when we started in Dublin because we took such a southern route. Today was the first day I actually started having doubts. I'm gonna finish it if nothing like physically ailing happens, but it's pretty enduring right now. The weather's been bad the last few days, and still have over 300 kilometers to go. So it's just one of those things you just have to focus of the day ahead and not think about, having to do this for the next 30 days. But I would say after this, I'm more interested in crossing countries by other means. So like I'd like to cross a country by bicycle. I'd like to cross a country by motorcycle. I'd like to cross a country by maybe by camel or, just like cool alternative ways to cars and planes.
Okay. I can definitely see that. I do like the idea of walking. Maybe bicycling might be on our list as well. I think that'd be pretty cool. But so I left you 2 days ago now. Was it yesterday?
Well, officially maybe. Yeah, officially.
I think it was just yesterday actually. Wow, like time has flown by. So if you guys are interested in what we actually did on the Wicklow Way, just go to johnnyft.com and look for Wicklow Way. We have everything there, basically detailed from day to day. And I actually just uploaded the epic video where it took me an entire week to film. And it's cool. So I think you guys would like that. But I'm curious, Sam, when I left you, what have you done since? What was yesterday's walk like?
Yesterday was like the worst day because after the 45K walk that we did, I mean, both of us were shattered, right? We had an amazing stay in this castle, which was almost like a stroke of Irish luck. Where I'm not sure if you talked about this, but basically, Johnny rented an Airbnb, and it was the gatehouse, like the front security gate of this actual castle called the Huntingdon Castle, and we were super stoked. And we show up to it, and someone was already in it. It was occupied, so we walked up to the actual castle. And turns out they fudged our reservation, and it was a super friendly family, and they just invited us in and said, we have 2 rooms available in here. You guys just stay with us. So we stay in this amazing castle, had just this fantastic overall experience. And the next day, I mean, it was really actually hard to get up and walk just on my bare feet the next day. It was hard to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and decided just to push on. So the guy, Alexander, he said he had a friend that owned this small lodge that was about 9 miles up the road. 7 miles up the road, which is like 15K. So I'm saying, okay. And to make it better, his buddy was going to be in town and he could take my pack so I could just walk without a pack, I thought that's okay. It's not cheating, right? I'm still walking. So arranged all that. He takes the pack. My 15K walk turns out to be 27K. And it's the same thing like the 45K walk the day before, where halfway through you're looking at the map and you're going, wait a second, we've already walked a full day's walk, and according to the map, I'm only halfway through. And all of a sudden this massive rainstorm comes through, and I'm literally on top of this mountain, and these deep dark black clouds rolling in. I'm like, damn, this is going to have lightning. What the hell am I going to do? Here comes the rain, starts pouring. And by the way, I have nothing. All I have is the Coca-Cola bottle of water that you gave me. That's it. No poncho, nothing. So I'm getting poured on, and I see maybe 500-600 yards down this grassy hill is like a parked car. So I run down this hill. I'm getting absolutely drenched. This was the heaviest rainstorm by a multitude of maybe 3 that you and I walked through.
Wow.
And I'm waiting for lightning to come. I was super scared. And I basically run and kind of like dive quickly next to this car. And lo and behold, there's some old guy in the car, right? And he opens the door. He's like, come in, mate. Come in, mate. I'm like, I'm soaking wet. And he's like, come on, get in here. Turns out he was driving off road and he was scared to drive in the rain. So he just stopped. So I get in the car and I'm with him for maybe an hour. I end up falling asleep in the car. Really old guy, super, super pleasant. And after it cleared, I continue walking, but I still had about 12K and I was totally drenched. I actually put a video on my Facebook, like it's in the middle of nowhere, Johnny. Like all you see is farms and green hills. It was really poorly marked. And after the 12K, I showed up. I was beaten. And the cool thing with this place that I stayed, it was called Osborne Storehouse. Like I said, it was one of these guys that he had lived in London for 14 years, was an architect. He's probably only like late 30s. He was an architect in London, just decided he was going to move back, build a pub and a 2-room lodge. But he says he doesn't post it anywhere like on booking.com or Airbnb or anything because his pub is super, super localized and everyone at the pub has their own seat and it's the same crowd every time. So he's like, I can't have people coming in that are like travelers or whoever else. And they come in and come down to the pub and they're loud or whatever, because it would kill my local audience base. So he's like, I only allow people that are referred to me from other people. So basically Alexander hooked me up by getting me into this place. And without that, I would have had to go. The next nearest place to stay was like another 10K on. I don't even think I could have made it. So it was cool. I stayed at this really local place with this guy, Eric, at his lodge. Was able to go down to the pub, met like tons of cool locals that it's just a small area. They never get travelers through there. So it was a really cool experience and another exhausting day. But that was yesterday, and today was.
Ooh, you gotta pause there. That's so much to take in. I mean, so first off, I am so glad I decided to stop the walk after the Wicklow Way finished and just come back to Dublin. Because that sounds like torture. I mean,
yesterday was the first day I was having doubts because I just realized that yesterday every day is going to be longer than expected. There is just no shortcuts. Everything takes longer. I don't think I don't think Google Maps is very accurate, and you can't really follow the maps that much. A lot of times we're just like kind of blazing our own trail per se. And one thing I forgot to mention last night, the town was so small, there was no food. So when I got in, I'm like, hey, where can I get food? Or there is no food. So the only thing they had was potato chips at the pub. And I already felt out of place at the pub. I didn't want to be the guy that was kind of sitting in locals seats. And there was only like 8 seats in the pub, but they were nice enough. They drove me about 15K into this other city to get Chinese takeout. So I bought he and his wife Chinese takeout because I felt bad.
That is so insane. Can you guys imagine living in a town so small that there are no restaurants?
Right. But it's like you and I assumed. We're like, what do people do for food? But everyone just cooks, right? They're all basically farmers. They have access to plenty of food. And I think a lot of it operates on the barter system with it. I'll give you some lamb and you give me some cabbage and so on and so forth. But the next morning, like I wake up, I got mad hay fever. I can barely open my eyes. I'm dehydrated. Oh, and by the way, when I was in that guy's car that let me in his car, I left your water bottle that you gave me. I left my sunglasses. And I left something else. I left like the 3 most important things that I had in the guy's car because I was so delirious. And so I wake up that next morning. I'm just drinking as much sink water as I can because I don't have anything to carry water in. And there's no breakfast and there's no coffee. So I just get on the road and I walk. Today I walked 4 hours to this city of Goresbridge, which was about halfway to Kilkenny. There's nothing in this city. So I'm like, how am I going to get a ride to Kilkenny? It's still 20 miles outside. I'm like, I got to get a ride. So my buddy Damien, who's meeting me up here in Kilkenny, he organized a hotel. And then I text I emailed the hotel. They sent a taxi to Goresbridge, thank goodness. As otherwise, I was nowhere going to get to Kilkenny. So that now I'm in Kilkenny now. Decided I'm going to take 3 days off, and then after I get some rest, I'm going to take a taxi back to Goresbridge so that I don't skip a beat, and I'll just pick up the walk from there in two or 3 days now.
You are literally insane, and I'm so happy that I'm not with you, Sam.
Listen, one thing I've learned from business and these types of things, that if you only have yourself to rely on and you're only yourself to keep a promise to, then it's really easy to let go. And I think that's why, like in business, it's so important to find good business partners, because it's really, really easy to give up if it's just you. But we're doing this charity. We've already had probably 40 people contribute to this charity, and it's the walk is the backbone of it. So there can't be any cheating, and it's got to be every single step has got to be over land. So yeah, I'm on a mission and make the event and the charity whole.
I think that's amazing. So if you guys want to support the charity and not make this whole walk for nothing, the details will be in the show notes. This is episode 160 something.
You're still delirious from the walk, man.
I am, actually, to be honest, because I was supposed to be done yesterday, and then I woke up and I was like, all right, well, how do I get back to Dublin? And there is no bus that goes from that little town of Clongal, and I had to go to Bloemfontein, which is the next slightly bigger town, and it was only something like 10 or 15 kilometers away. And I was like, oh, okay, that'd be fine. I'll do one more bonus day of walking. Maybe this will actually be good for my muscles after that crazy walk. But what had happened was, first, my feet are destroyed. My ankles are hurting. The bottom of my feet hurt. I have blisters on my feet now, mainly from that long day walk, especially because it was raining. And to get from Clongal to Bloemfontein, it's not that many kilometers, but it's straight up a mountain.
As everything in Ireland seems to be, right?
Yeah, and I'm walking. I was like, what did I do? I just I thought I was done. I just tricked myself into going further, especially because two different people had offered to drive me to Bloemfontein, and I refused both because I was like, just go for a walk. And by the way, this is episode 164. If you guys haven't figured it out yet. The link to the charities in there. It's to build playgrounds for kids in third world countries, namely Cambodia. Because as hard as our lives are, we have to remember that we have a choice to walk 45 kilometers. A lot of these kids, they don't. That is their entire lives. So I'm glad that we were able to raise some awareness for them, especially Sam, who's going all the way to the West. And I agree. I think by you having that out there and having a higher calling or higher meaning behind it than just, wanting to do it, or, thinking it might be an adventure, it might be fun. I think by announcing it and doing it for someone more than just yourself, I think that is the only reason why you haven't just, hopped on a bus back to Dublin to have some Guinness with me here.
You know what's pretty incredible, Johnny? Do you remember when we were in the takeaway store?
Yes, I do.
After we finished, right? And we saw a Galway girl.
Yep.
So for anyone out there that doesn't know, a Galway girl is based off of the Galway Girl song, which is in P.S. I Love You. And it talks about, we'll have to, you'll have to splice in a segment like the chorus of the song. But I took a little stroll down the old long road all day. I took a stroll down the old long walk on the day. And it talks about a Galway girl, which is a dark-haired girl with blue eyes. And apparently Galway's where they're from. So we're in this pizza shop, and there's actually this pretty attractive girl with dark hair and blue eyes. This was ordering fish and chips takeaway or something. And Johnny was like, hey, are you a Galway girl? And she's like, no, I'm local or whatever. Well, funny enough, yesterday when I'm walking in the middle of nowhere, she gets out of some van and starts walking towards some old house, literally 15 feet away from me, right? And this was 10 kilometers up the road or like halfway through. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is almost like the P.S. I Love You movie, right? Where it's just like you run into someone and then you run into him again on like this really like rural area in Ireland. But of course I have a girlfriend, so I didn't engage in conversation or anything, but I just thought it was so random and sort of interesting that happened.
Yeah, definitely. And I think traveling and doing these adventures is really one of those ways to open up possibilities in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Johnny, I wish you were coming along with me. It was definitely a great support group, and I'm so happy that you came to the Wicklow Way, something that I'll definitely remember forever. I think it's one of those trips that will just continue to get better and better and better and more fond of the memories. And big high five to Ireland, because I think this is just one of the most spectacular countries that people don't spend enough time in. Beautiful people, beautiful country, and just a lot of good quality time here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And actually just editing that video and watching it again, even though it literally just ended yesterday, I'm already kind of reminiscing about how beautiful this walk was. And I highly, highly encourage everyone to put this on their bucket list to do. I would recommend doing the Wicklow Way and then taking a bus back to Dublin and not continue to walk over the hill. But so I didn't tell you, I couldn't get a bus back to Dublin because it was a Sunday and it was a bank holiday. And nobody told me that the buses weren't running. It wasn't, they don't have a website. I tried calling the phone number. Nobody picked up. I asked around. Nobody knew, because people in this little village, you just don't leave it. They just kind of stay there. So I'm waiting at the side of the road for an hour for the bus to come. Doesn't come. And I go into the shops, ask around, and they say, oh, well, there's another one, in another hour. Just wait here. And I was so scared to miss it. I literally stood just in the middle of the road with my bright orange backpack, just waving down every bus that went by. And they would stop, and they were like, no, this isn't a bus. This is like a church van or something. And it started pouring rain. I think it was that same storm that you had got caught in. And I was like just giving up. I think I just kind of almost like broke down, thinking, oh, I'm so fucking exhausted from walking from 8 to 8 days. And I've been standing here for 2 hours, and there's nothing. There's no help. And the nice thing was, there was actually a ton of people who stopped to talk to me and like asked if they can help, but but nobody was of any actual help, because they didn't know anything about the bus system and nobody was going that direction.
Let me ask you, during that experience, did you feel stressed or did you feel something else?
I don't know if it was stress. I think part of it was stress, but part of it was kind of just like, so I think I went through a lot of emotions. One was thinking, like, the infrastructure here sucks. They don't have a clearly labeled bus stop. Like, there's no fucking website. Like, there's no, like, why is it this crappy? Like, if they're going to offer a service, they might as well make it, like, actually run. And the second part I was thinking is like, you know what? I feel like I'm like all alone in this random, town somewhere, and you're gone. I don't know anyone here. I really am like that stranger, that outsider. And I actually thought about, what do I do? And the good thing is I knew I had options. I knew, luckily, because I don't have a tight schedule or a job to get back to, and because I have enough money in the bank and also money coming in through passive income, where if anything, I could have just, checked into a bed and breakfast there and just said, all right, well, I guess I'm just living in this town now. I can't get out of it, or at least spend the night. So I think that was all running through my mind. But I think I was so tired that I was almost kind of like, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, let's see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a relatively high stressed individual. And I have been so unstressed during this trip. It's been amazing. I mean, I'm way behind on work. I'm, like you said, the infrastructure is not great. Things aren't always working at optimal efficiency. But there's just something about the nature. Like, everything is unbelievably green. It's almost like in Tahoe this year, like the snow was just unbelievable. the greenery here, it's more than you can ever imagine. It's like a photo will never do it justice. It's just green everywhere. And I think that does something to like the human psyche, where it's like a lot of our days were super enduring, and the days continue to be really enduring physically, mentally, emotionally. But the stress, like I don't feel stressed about work or money or transit. And I think that's also one of the beautiful things about being on your feet, is that you just control your day and your destiny and your pace. Like it's not like you're on a train or a plane where you can't get off and you have no control and like you have all the security and bullshit. It's just like you're on your feet and you know you're going 15 or 20K a day. And if you want to go at 2K a mile or an hour or 6K an hour, there's something just very liberating about being on your feet. The only emotion that I really had last night that I felt was like you said, the loneliness, because everyone was gone and I was just in this unbelievably small town with no food. And I knew I was getting up the next morning with no breakfast, no coffee, and I was just going to have to walk 20K and then try to find a taxi in another small town that's not going to have taxi, and a little bit of a helpless feeling. But then again, everybody here is so nice that you always know if you're in any trouble, you find a house, you walk up to it, 99% chance they're going to invite you in for tea and help you on your way.
Yeah, and I definitely think that this is like one of the few places left on Earth where people really are that friendly. I mean, just the fact that you took a nap in some random guy's car for an hour really highlights that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. It's great to have those experiences too. It helps you build faith in humanity and I think bond to of course to the human race, for lack of better words.
Yeah, well, I didn't tell you this yet, but I just couldn't get a bus at all from that town, and a local police officer was like, "Oh, I'll drive you over to the next town where they have buses that leave every hour." And he said, but I gotta take a call first. There's like a fight happening at a used car dealership. He's like, if the bus doesn't, if you're still standing here by the time that call's over, I'll drive you there on my way home. And wow. I didn't think he was coming back. It was raining, and I was like, he probably forgot about me, or he probably assumed I got a bus. And I was so grateful when he pulled up and he's like, "Get in." Man,
that's just great to hear. That is really that stuff just doesn't happen in too many places.
So, I mean, it is like it is so different. I think there's the two sides of it, because, even just yesterday, the first half of my day was walking, being alone in nature, quiet little tiny village. And then last night, because I wanted to celebrate, finish the walk, and I just haven't done anything, so long, I decided to go on a pub crawl. And in Dublin, it's insane, and I'm like hanging out with these it's probably like 40 people, going bar to bar, getting free shots as you go in, drinking a Guinness. I'm hanging out with these 3 gorgeous girls from Holland that were all sisters, and just like thinking, this is also the life, it's the complete opposite from what I was doing in the morning. And I think I guess the dichotomy of the two really kind of puts perspective into what makes us happy. And I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's making time for both.
It's variety. It's always variety, right? If you just were doing the walking and countryside stuff, that would be dull. And if you were just in the bars with the Holland girls, although that sounds good on paper, that would get dull. You got to have variety. You got to have balance. But more and more that we travel and experience, I think I'm finding, and I think this has something to do with age, but I'm finding that nature is a super, super important piece that I think throughout most of my life I've been missing, at least in large quantities throughout the year. And this year I've had the opportunity to spend so much time, out in Tahoe and the Carolinas, and now Ireland, where I've spent very little time actually in the cities. And my stress levels have gone way down, and I think the quality of life this year has gone way, way up.
Yeah, and I'm definitely grateful that we have the opportunities to be able to do both. And I think we are living in a very, very unique time in the world where it is possible for pretty much everyone to be able to work remotely, to be able to be able to be a digital nomad if you want to, or just be location independent, at least part of the year, and experience these things, because it really is so much better than just sitting behind a cubicle. And I think you can do it any way you want. I think one thing that would have made this much easier is if we planned the routes to be shorter, where, even if we just walked 5K a day, which doesn't sound like that much, but I guarantee that's more than most people walk. And if you just walked, a short distance every day, but you still get that feeling of seeing something new, going slowly towards the next destination. And if you did that, you would have so much time to work on your business or work remotely for your employer for the rest of the day. And you really could get the best of both.
Well, we just had on, for any of the listeners that also listen to Invest Like a Boss, we just had on MJ DeMarco, and we were talking about fast lane versus slow lane. And, we talk about this stuff a lot with the digital revolution. It's out there for anybody. MJ DeMarco said it's, the fast lane's not for anybody, but it's out there for anybody who likes it or wants it. And I think of the same as for remote work. You can be 20 and have great opportunities. You could also be 60 and have great opportunities to work online and do stuff like that. And on your advice, Johnny, I'm definitely going to slow down the pace. The 20K days, I think, are going to be few and far between. If I can do 10K days and have a nice quality walk, doesn't feel rushed, and if it rains, I can stop and not feel like I'm missing time. I think that's a really good pace.
Yeah, definitely. So I wonder, aside Ireland, just because it's, I guess, a little bit too rural, where you almost kind of have to book your hotels in advance because there's a chance you just get stuck with nowhere to stay. I wonder, is there somewhere in the world, maybe even in the US, where you can walk 10Ks a day, have enough options where you can just randomly check into, a hotel or, a motel somewhere, and maybe even have access to co-working spaces along the way, which you guys can find at coworker.com, of course.
Yeah, of course. I don't think so. Not in the U.S. because it's too spread out, right?
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
But it's a really good question. I would say if it was going to be anywhere, it'd probably be in Europe, because so many villages and towns originally were created within walking distance to other ones. But Ireland's might be the best example out there. And I don't know if we would have had that insight without this trip, but this is a pretty unique place in that fact that a lot of the planning, I have no idea where we're going to go and when we start walking again in 2-3 days. And frankly, I'm not that worried about it, right? It's just you can super prepare, but in a place like this, I think part of the joy and excitement is really not having too much of a plan, because we, typically in our lives with business and our lifestyle, we're planning way far out. We're planning 2 or 3 months out in advance. So it's kind of nice just to roll it back and not have a plan for the next day or two, and just know that you're in a place that is more than likely going to be able to accommodate you and your needs. And if anything bad happens, you always have kind of a safety net here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think one of my favorite things about your personality is you're very flexible with your lifestyle, as in you're okay sleeping, at a 5-star hotel, or sleeping in a lean-to shelter or dorm room out in the middle of nowhere.
As long as there's nobody snoring next to me, yeah, I'm okay. It's good to mix it up, man. It's just like flying. It's like flying first class and flying, economy, or taking buses and taking trains. I was actually just looking at flights. Emirates, you can fly Dublin to Hong Kong. You can fly business class for $2,000, which is a phenomenal experience if anyone wants to splurge. I think we talked about this on one of the previous Travel Like a Boss episodes, but it is one of the coolest experience you can do. But make sure you're on the A380, not the 777, because if you're on the A380, it's the double-decker, biggest commercial plane in the world, and they have the onboard bar, which is a totally different flying experience. So I was just checking, because after this, I'm going to be ready for a little bit of pampering. So you can fly $2,000 from Dublin to Hong Kong, or for $3,600, which sounds really expensive, but I'm telling these flights are usually like 10 grand. For $3,600, you can fly first class, where you can literally get your own cabin with like a full size bed, and you get it's just the works. It's crazy. It's all like gold plated. It's amazing.
Wow. I think either of those options sounds amazing. I know you're going to be spending most of your time at the bar on the plane, so I'm sure business class would be just fine for you.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's, on a long flight, 12 hours, even if you're in a nice big seat, I just don't like being kind of confined to an area. So the wonderful thing about the A380s is that you can get up and walk around, and you have literally a social lounge there with 10, 15. I've been in those lounges sometimes with 20 people, and everyone's up there drinking wine, trading business cards, talking about stories. They get the stewardess back there all, having fun. It totally changes flying. I know, Richard Branson's dream was to put casinos on his planes eventually. They also have the bars on some of the Virgin jets. But yeah, hopefully this becomes a new standard, because I think once you experience that, unfortunately, going back and flying like domestic in the US really, really sucks. But hopefully it will continue to push the industry and category along so that flying can be just a much, much more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think for anyone who ever complains saying like, oh, like, why are you guys wasting all this money in business class or doing this? I think part of it is it gives us a reason to work harder and kind of strive harder and continue to work hard. But also, I think a lot of people don't realize that economy seat tickets, the only reason why they're even as cheap as they are today is because I think it's something like 2/3 of the profit from flying actually comes from the 20 seats up front, versus the 150 seats in economy make up less than 1/3 of the actual airline profit. So if nobody was flying business class or first class, every ticket would cost you $2,000 wherever you go.
Yeah, it makes sense. The airlines are a pretty fine-tuned revenue management machine. Also, by the way, I just finished Richard Branson's book. What is it called? Losing My Virginity. Phenomenal book, man. It was actually a Rob Shaw recommendation, and it's a bit of an older book, I think, but that's a killer book. I mean, that's up there in terms of autobiographies. I put that and maybe like Call Me Ted up there as kind of top couple, at least on my reading list.
Okay, I love it. And if you guys haven't heard Sam Marks' backstory, we talked about it on episode 105. The episode is called Millionaire Digital Nomad with Sam Marks. And if you want to know how Sam made all his money, he was a speaker at the 2016 Nomad Summit. You can look for it on YouTube. Just look for Nomad Summit, and it's called Building a $100 Million Company. And now we are living like hobos out of a backpack and sleeping in the middle of nowhere in our little villages.
Did you decide what you're going to do with your backpack yet?
I think I'm just going to give it away. I already gave away my sleeping bag on the last stop just because I figured I would never use it. And
so Johnny and I had a debate when we were in Barcelona a few weeks ago. We both had our luggage, and I said, okay, I'm going to take my luggage and just gamble at finding a place to leave it for the month, because we couldn't find any place that had like official left luggage or luggage storage. And Johnny said, well, okay, I can fly for $50 to Dublin. I'll take the gamble of just leaving my baggage here, and it's probably cheaper that I can just fly back to Barcelona and grab it on the way back. So I took mine, and long story short, BA lost it and then delivered it like 3 days into the trip at this totally random hotel on the countryside. But they accepted it, so it's there. I got to figure out how to go back and collect it. And Johnny, your bag is in Barcelona.
Yeah, so it's pretty insane. I think both of us got the short end of the stick.
Yeah, right. I think we both lost.
Yeah, there's no winner in this.
No.
I think the main reason why I left my luggage in Barcelona was, first, I didn't want to like hassle anybody in Ireland, because not knowing where I can leave my bag, I didn't want to, just go door to door just asking, hey, can I leave my baggage here, or risk having to pay something like $20 a day just to store a backpack. I went out to backpack a rolling luggage. And since I had a friend in Barcelona, I figured I could just leave my bag here. And assuming that I would be coming back through Spain for whatever crazy reason in my head, I just didn't want, you know what, honestly, I think what it was is I just didn't want to think about it. I just didn't want to deal with it. I was so excited to go on this trip, and I figured this is one of those things where I don't have to think about right now. I can just go there with just what I want to walk with, and it's going to be great. And I think for that, it was worth it. But now that I actually have to deal with the consequences, where I have to fly back to Barcelona, which is 3 hours out of the way to my next destination, which is now Germany. I realize, and I have to pay another $100 something because there's no $50 flights anymore. I realize it is always better to plan ahead a little bit, instead of just putting things off, because eventually it will bite you in the ass.
Yeah, it makes sense. And where are you headed? You're in Dublin right now. Where are you headed next?
So I didn't know where I was going to go, to be honest. I'm waiting for my buddy Chris, who is getting sick of Bali now. He just got scammed for $500 out of the ATM, which happens to pretty much everybody who ever uses an ATM in Bali, which is basically everybody, even though he is super careful. He's probably one of the most careful people in the world. He double checks all the time. He covers his PIN, everything. He got both his ATM and, on a separate occasion, his credit card cloned. And the lack of infrastructure there, just everything's kind of getting to him, and he realized Bali is not, it really is being in a third world country, and it kind of sucks. So he's, ready to come to Europe. So I'm going to meet him somewhere. We haven't decided where yet. Maybe Poland, maybe Budapest, maybe somewhere else. But because I have some time to kill, after I pick up my bag in Barcelona, I'm going to slowly make my way through Germany. Then I'm going to check out Hamburg first, because I've never been there before. And it's on the way to Berlin, which Affiliate World is having their conference next week. And even though I won't be attending the conference, I got invited to some of their after parties. So I figured I'd just go there, hang out, have an open bar, and meet some cool people. Yeah,
I think that's a good decision. That'll be fun. You gotta take those once or twice a year networking events, and you just got to go after it, because it always ends up being a good idea, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And if you guys are planning your next network event, the Nomads Summit is going to be mid-January 2018 in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I know a lot of people have been asking about that, so I should probably put up some type of placeholder just so people know.
Let's coordinate for that, because if that's going to be the end of January, the installation for the playgrounds could be anywhere in January, February, or March. So it'd be kind of cool if we could actually take, a small group from Nomad Summit and then go over to Cambodia afterwards and have a little bit of a larger group to do the installation.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. And probably the easiest way would be for us to just plan on going to Cambodia kind of mid-February, but right at the start of burning season. Mm-hmm. That way everybody can meet in Chiang Mai in January, or if they want to come a little bit earlier, November, December, those are great months to be there. Spend 2-3 months, maybe even build another business, create another stream of passive income, and kick it off with the Nomad Summit as kind of a celebration. And from there, go to Cambodia and build these playgrounds that Sam helped raise through Child's Dream.
And you helped raise too, my man. I appreciate it. I actually just checked right now. We've already raised $9,000, which is incredible, in 4 or 5 days. And that is enough already to build 3 of these playgrounds, these are amazing playgrounds. They're we installed one in 2016, and it was incredible. When we went there to actually install it, all these kids came running from the local village and helped. They were literally digging this kind of rocky terrain out with their hands, and they're helping build holes, and they were helping any way they could to install this. They were so excited. And after the playground was complete and everyone was playing on it, it was such an incredible feeling. So we think it's a really, really good cause. The difference in, these rural children having the opportunity to play and bond and do sports together, versus the opportunity of them not having that. I think it's incredible. And when you see the kids smiling and playing and getting on with each other, then I think it's a really good experience that if you have the opportunity, please join us. Give us a little bit of notice, and we'd love to have you come and help put in some playgrounds.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. And if you guys want to donate to help make this possible, or even just spread the word, if you go to the show notes of this episode, we'll have a link to the GoFundMe campaign. And yeah, this has been crazy. I'm almost kind of, I'm glad it's over, but I'm kind of sad that this Ireland trip has come to an end.
Well, you kind of leave something to be desired, right? Ireland will always be here. We can do another trip, another year. We can do another walking trip across another country. There's Iceland. There's a lot of places out there that are still big on the to-do list. So you don't have to do it all at once. It's good to save some things and have some memories to fall back on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So what are your travel plans after? Well, I guess you're still going to be walking for at least a few more weeks. So maybe you haven't even thought that far yet.
Yeah, I'm planning on most of June to be in Ireland. Waiting to see if my girlfriend can get her visa. If she can, we'll probably stay in Europe for a bit longer. And if she can't, then the options were either go back and I kind of want to spend a season in the Carolinas. I really, really am just loving the Carolinas right now, and all the outdoor opportunity, recreation. Again, the people are amazing. Or come back to Asia. I'd say it's more than likely to go back to Asia and spend the fall between Hong Kong and Thailand.
Okay, I love it. I have a feeling that we will be hanging out very soon, either here in Europe somewhere or back in Thailand, or maybe even out in Georgia. I wouldn't mind checking out, or not Georgia, the Carolinas. I think that'll be a fun experience.
It's a spot. We got a lot of big name contacts there now too. Phil Town, and they're building a tech village in Atlanta. I think it's already built, northern Atlanta. So some pretty cool stuff going on in the area. And if we don't hit it this fall, then more than likely next spring.
Very cool. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, you guys will probably enjoy our other podcast, Invest Like a Boss, that Sam and I co-host. And lately we've been having some huge name guests on there. Last week we had James Altucher on the show. And this week we have MJ DeMarco, the author of Millionaire Fastlane and his new book, Unscripted. So check out investlikeaboss.com or subscribe to the show here on iTunes. Sam, if people want to reach out, coworker.com, anywhere else, Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, I'm not too visible on any of that stuff, but Invest Like a Boss or coworker.com, yeah.
Okay, love it. And big thank you to everyone who's been taking the time to leave these amazing 5-star reviews on iTunes. You guys are the reason why we're able to keep going week after week with the shows. This week I want to thank Alvin J4 from Australia. He says, inspiring, mate. 5 stars. Thank you, Johnny, for being so transparent in both your blog and this podcast. You were a great ambassador for the digital nomads and an inspiration to many who wish to go down the same path as you helped pave. Thank you, Alvin. And thanks, Sam. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Johnny. It was great with you all last week, and thanks for your support in this good cause for Child's Dream and Building Playgrounds. Appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, I love it. And if you guys want to come out to Ireland and check out what the Wicklow Way has to offer, or check out what the country has to offer, or if you want to maybe fly from Dublin to Hong Kong business or first class, check out our sponsor, tripstreak.com/travel-like-a-boss for all your airplane booking needs, especially if you want to filter out and find, airplanes with truly lay flat seats or, whatever your preferences are flying. Thanks again, and I'll see all of you guys next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus, How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travelLikeABossPodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.